big whiskers and his little cute little face.
Another experience I had, I was in Maui and over to
Good afternoon, everyone. Now is the time for Legal and Finance Committee. It is June 10th, 12:30 p.m. We are in City Council chambers. We would like to start the meeting with a roll call and determination of quorum, please.
Drury.
Here.
Drew. Here. Lewis. Nordstrom. Here. Lehman. Here. We have quorum.
Thank you. Now is the time for the members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. With that, we do have guest comments for items 2 and 3, and then we have a general public comment. So I will go to the general public comment first. Well, first I guess we need to vote on consent items 1 through 13 with pulling off 2 and 3.
Move to approve.
Oh, we need to adopt the agenda first. I'm sorry. Do I have a motion to adopt? We have a motion to adopt the agenda by Lehman and a second by Drew. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. The agenda is adopted. Now we will go to consent items. I read the general public comments, so let's do consent items 1 through 13, and then I will go to public comment. Okay. I need to remove 2 and 3. Oh, okay, so we need to do the general public comment first. Yeah. I'm really off task. Okay, so we will go to Natalie LaFrance-Slack.
Yep.
If you would like to go to the lectern and give us your address and your name, and then you have 3 minutes, please.
Do we know which? Oh, that one's on. Okay. My name's Natalie LaFrance-Slack, and my address is 550 Texas Street, Rapid City, South Dakota, 57701. Good afternoon, Council. I'm here today representing a group of active and concerned residents in Rapid City who would like to begin to take part in ensuring our city is accountable in all matters, including funding allocation. In affirmation that Black Lives Matter and Indigenous rights are human rights, we are jumping into the ongoing conversation about how municipal funds are developed, decided, and distributed. Today, we ask that the Council keep at the front of their mind the mission to allocate funds in ways which meet the needs of all residents. This includes those who experience racial and other forms of discrimination, poverty, disability, homelessness, food insecurity, and domestic violence. To us, this means more than stopgap or survival measures and includes some leadership, initiative, and effort to ensure residents of Rapid City can thrive. There are always difficult choices when budgeting funds, and we ask you to remember those who may not reach out and assert their needs due to the factors mentioned. As a group, we hope to raise and amplify voices in need and advocate for their needs. We also ask that you take the time to make a personal commitment to pursuing continuing education on systemic racism, the cycle of poverty, historical trauma, as it relates specifically to municipal finance in communities like ours. Thank you so much for your time and your service.
All right, thank you very much for those comments. We will now close general public comment, and we will go on to the consent items 1 through 13. I would like to remove 2 and 3. Are there any other items to be removed? If not, I would ask for a motion. Second. We have a motion to approve 1 through 13 with the exception of 2 and 3 by Lehman and a second by Drew. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign, and the motion carries. We will now go to public comment for items 2 and 3. This is by Gabriel Spahn. And if you would go to the lectern and give us your name and address, please, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Gabriel Spahn. My address is 22801 Norris Peak Lane, Rapid City SD 57702. I will begin. So I am speaking against the approval of the funding in items 2 and 3 because I believe, especially related to current events around the country, that there are more important policing issues that deserve the city's funding at this time. Specifically, 2 of those issues that I would like to bring up are how the RCPD interacts with the Native American population of our city and overall transparency and community accountability of the RCPD. So the first point, I think we're all aware of many of the stats involving crime and jailing population of our Native American population. The most recent data I could find online stated that our Native American population is under a quarter of the city's population, but it accounts for more than half of arrests in our jailed population. Now, the city did receive a 2015 grant that sought to address a lot of these issues, and there have been some measures that came from that involving like officers interacting within community, different inmate initiatives, but I think those failed to address a lot of the systematic issues that underlie our police's interaction with our Native American population. So what I think we should be allocating more city funds for involve addressing and restructuring a lot of our justice system, specifically things like our bail system. A lot of those arrests that I mentioned are process arrests for Native American arrested citizens, and so things like failing to appear in court and failing to satisfy other elements of the process. So given that so many of this population is arrested for things like that, it would be a good use of our city's funds to both initiate research into restructuring the system into a way that better works for our Native American citizens, and then acting on the recommendations of that research. Now, the second issue that I wanted to address very quickly was transparency and accountability within our police department. Now, our police department, like many around the country, has issues with public-facing accountability on internal investigations, especially those relating to use of force. As an example, there was the 2014 killing of a Native American man by the RCPD, and the investigation into this was conducted essentially behind closed doors by the department, South Dakota Department of Criminal Investigation, and this left a lot of citizens, including myself, feeling that we were left out and didn't know what was happening behind closed doors. In light of recent events specifically, as we've seen police departments around the country be less than transparent and less than accountable, I think it's important that we invest in measures to make our police department more accountable, including things like civilian review boards for use of force. To conclude, I think our city has large problems that need to be addressed with regard to these, and that funding for these is more important than funding for buying new cars for the Rapid City Police Department, lest we become the next Minneapolis. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much for those comments. We appreciate it. We will now go to item number 2, authorize staff to purchase Dodge Ram truck for $32,359 at the state bid price to replace aging vehicle in the police department fleet. The chair recognizes Darla Drew.
Move to approve if I could get a second and hold the floor.
Okay.
In light of what we just heard, it really didn't affect my feeling about buying new vehicles because I think we do our best to try to keep our fleet in good shape. But Chief Jagras, as long as you're out there, would you like to address any of the points that were brought up and talk about the need for vehicles and why they do help a lot of people and are a necessary investment?
Thank you, Mrs. Drew. Wow, that was a lot to absorb. I would like to start by inviting Mr. Spahn to contact me at my office, and I would be happy to visit with you personally or have a staff member visit with you to get you up to speed on some of the extreme efforts that our department has gone to in order to better serve our community, and with very specific focus to our Native American population. But regarding the vehicles, I would like to tell you that, there's 2 items, number 2 and number 3, and One of them is for a truck for the quality of life unit. One of them is for an unmarked vehicle, a Jeep for the quality of life unit. And I think you are all well versed on what that is all about, but I did prepare a few comments knowing that there was a little bit of a defund the police campaign underway, preparing for this meeting. But the Rapid City Police Department has employed a community-based model to assist with these services. Our quality of life unit is directly dedicated to connecting our chronically displaced and vulnerable families and individuals to service in the community and hoping to help them overcome challenges that they face. They provide ongoing mentorship and work with assigned case managers to serve these members of our community. The Quality of Life Unit is in need of new vehicles to support their community-based efforts. These efforts are focused on non-arrest activities such as transporting individuals to doctors and service appointments. RCPD considers these efforts to be vital to building permanent and long-standing solutions to challenges that our most vulnerable populations face. Additionally, in short term, these vehicles are considered important to the city's response to the COVID pandemic, as they will be used to transport displaced individuals to a temporary shelter in an effort that we hope to build into our model of community support long term. So I'll just tell you that 2 of the 3 vehicles, we have created a direct nexus to our quality of life unit, which has a direct nexus to our homeless population, which is at greater risk of COVID exposure. As you all know, we have been working very hard behind the scenes to collaborate with other entities to help stand up the emergency shelter. I know that there are a lot of people that think that the COVID issue is done or nearly done, but we at the department, we are prepared to withstand it throughout its entirety. The wearing of masks does not eliminate the social distancing risk. As you've all seen with some of the protest activity, social distancing is not occurring. Our officers are exposed to greater risk because of that, and we're prepared to continue to do so. But to summarize, the vehicles are a necessity to continue a police force, and in my opinion, after 24 or more years of service to the Rapid City Police Department, the progressive direction that we have adapted to best meet the needs of our, especially the most vulnerable in our community, have put us in a place that we're very fortunate that we haven't had vandalism and rioting and looting in our community. And I think it's because we have a great degree of community trust. I would ask you to not get into the fray of what's going on unrelated to this and the defunding police effort, and stay focused and help us maintain our progressive culture so that we can continue to serve in the manner of which we do.
So the Quality of Life program, that was funded in part by the grant to get officers prepared to almost be the precursor. When they go in, they can see what's going on and actually diffuse the situation. That's what they're trained to do before something bad or violent happens. Is that part of it?
That, and it is boots on the ground social work, which is odd for a law enforcement agency to become involved in. And I would welcome, I know that a part of the nationwide defund policing effort is relative to having more social work services, more education, more things like that, and bring that on board first, and then we can adjust our policing model, okay? Because if you start cutting the policing model before you have the other resources in place, we're going to have a situation like some of the cities that are facing those distrust issues to a degree that's causing severe disruption and economic chaos. That could come here, but I think I've said probably way too much on the topic.
I'm out of time, but I want to just make it clear that these are for quality of life units that are really doing the very kind of work that the young man was discussing, to go out and help those people with COVID or other issues get to the resources they need in time before things escalate. So I'm going to support the purchase of these vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Drew. I have one question for you, Chief, if you have time. So the budgeting for this is coming from a coronavirus supplemental funding grant, so it doesn't really touch your 2020 budget, or how is that working?
So 2 out of the 3 vehicles, that is the case. And I will just tell you, previously the council voted to allow us to accept the COVID grant funding. As you know, several other departments also were beneficial of similar funding but different. Ours came from the Department of Justice, and they were awarded specifically to be utilized to prevent, prepare for, or respond to the coronavirus. Allowable projects and purchases include, but are not limited to, overtime equipment, including law enforcement equipment. And so it is a very appropriate use of the grant funding. The grant was purposefully put out in a broad fashion by the Department of Justice to allow flexibility for departments and cities to do what they need to do to be best prepared. As you know, from the mayor's recent budget presentation, the police department took a cut of about $800,000, including our vehicle line item was cut in half. And so this is a way for us to recoup some of that so we don't get too far behind before you all have to deal with the 2021 budget.
All right, thank you very much. That answers my questions. Are there any other comments from council? If not, we have a motion by Drew and a second by Lehman. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. And we also need to vote on number 3, authorize staff to purchase 2 Jeep Grand Cherokees for a total of $52,672 at state bid price to replace aging vehicles in the police department fleet.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Lehman and a second by Drew. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you both for your comments. And we will now go to item number 14 from the Finance Department, second reading and recommendation of ordinance 6429 regarding supplemental appropriation number 3 for 2020.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Drew and a second by Lehman. See no one queuing in. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. 15, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6428, an ordinance to clarify the retail sales component of microbreweries as conditional uses in the light industrial district by amending section 17.22.030N of the Rapid City Municipal Code. Chair recognizes Alderman Drew.
Thank you. Could I direct a question to Joel Landine, please?
Certainly may.
Joel, could you give me a little bit of background on this? Does this mean they didn't have to have a conditional use permit before, or what? I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around this, so could you tell me why we need this new ordinance?
Well, I think it would be better addressed at planning, but my understanding is that there was a retail component. So I think what you can see is that, say like the Firehouse Winery, they have a retail sales component. Well, it's supposed to be accessory to the brewery use, but you could have a situation where somebody was saying they were a brewery. There wasn't really, I think, my understanding from what I heard Ken when he discussed it is that there wasn't really a limitation on the retail component. So it's one of those situations where you could have an exception that potentially swallows the rule, or where it was more of a retail establishment with an accessory brewery, but it wasn't. But it's supposed to be the other way around. It was clear, like, we don't want to stop somebody that has a brewery from selling merchandise, but we don't want to necessarily, if you're going to have a retail store, then have a retail store. Don't call it a brewery to get around the provision. So I don't know if there was a specific situation that drew attention to it, or what brought their attention. Probably could email planning and let them know to be prepared to address it more on Monday night. But generally, when we do this, it's cleanup to make sure that the rule works the way it was originally meant to work.
Well, I would think with the COVID restrictions, maybe we saw a lot more off sale than actually people going in and enjoying a drink at a brewery. So I can see where this is probably wouldn't even been brought to light had not we had this situation we have right now. So of course I can support this at this time unless I hear other reasons not to, so I'm going to go ahead and vote yes on this one. Thank you.
The chair would accept a motion. We have a motion by Nordstrom and a second by Lehman.
I already talked on it.
So all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We're now on number 16, approve resolution 2020-056, an emergency resolution extending resolution number 2020-034. Can I just call on the city attorney to give us a little bit of explanation here, please, Mr. Landine?
Certainly. At your last meeting, you extended the emergency ordinance through the end of July. That ordinance allows you to adopt regulations by resolution. I don't remember the exact date, but several weeks ago, you modified the resolutions or the regulations in the ordinance essentially to allow on-site service at restaurants and casinos and bars, allowing them to reopen. Those restrictions, those regulations have been in place now for several weeks. We have been approving them about every 2 weeks so that you're looking at them and reviewing them. The current resolution expires at the end of this week, or excuse me, at the end of next week. So if you don't approve an extension of the resolution, essentially what happens is it would revert back to the more restrictive requirements in the ordinance. So we bring this forward because the expiration is coming up. I have set it to go till, I think, July 10th, and the purpose of that is your next regularly scheduled meeting is July 6th. So you would review it again at the meeting on July 6th.
So at this point, we would either extend it the way it is, or we could make recommendations for changes?
Certainly, you could modify the regulations, like right now, the regulations require restaurants to be at 50% of the posted occupancy. So if you wanted to modify that, you could modify that,
Okay.
or other restrictions.
Any other members have any questions? Okay, then look for a motion, please.
Move to city council on our next meeting without recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion by Drew to send to council without recommendation, and a second by Lehman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Would anyone like to recommend we adjourn? Great, we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.